it's interesting, your inner being's with you. When it's oppressive, your inner being isn't. In other words, you could use your guidance to know which thoughts jive with broader perspective and which ones don't.
That's been occurring to me, yeah.
Which ones are true basis of understanding. You know that reality is constantly morphing into other things. Some might say, well, there is pretty good proof that the earth is revolving as I've described it, or that there are three sides to a triangle. But we want to remind you that the manifestations of things, they're just following thought trends. So there are plenty of things that people are observing in current society that they are thinking about and believing and therefore perpetuating, that they would rather not live. They are truths, proofs, evidences that they would rather not live. We want to call your attention to the truths in your vibrational vortex that in every case you do want to live, and that your source energy is supporting. So we're just encouraging a direction of attention. We know you have an important thing that you're getting at, and we're going to let you get to it.
So, I like the example of the whole nutritional information thing, because it's a personal example for me. Over the last, really around the time I was 20, I just memorized a bunch of facts and rules about what is and isn't healthy, and what supplements do what, and how much exercise you need at what time, and all this junk. And it occurs to me that maybe, for a long time I based...
Here's the thing. What if, from where you stand, that the gathering of that information is the path of least resistance and therefore is serving you? But what if, once you've ridden that vehicle for a ways, that your intentionality is such that now it's time for another vehicle? The question that we want to put back to you is, are you willing to allow your belief system to evolve with your desires? Are you willing to be the adaptive being that you are born to be? Because there are a lot of things that your society or humanity has once believed that no longer apply, but they were there when you needed them. Those beliefs were there and served you, because sometimes a beginning of a belief, which is all you can find, it serves you to get to the next place where you can launch a further desire. But then that beginning belief is no longer a vehicle that is serving you. And so to hold to something for the sake of holding to it out of tradition, or because my mother thought that, or because whatever, there is a better guidance coming forth from within you that will always guide you to the vortex version, which is always the new and improved vehicle that you're reaching for.
I love the idea of moving from one vehicle to the next.
Yeah.
And I think the only thing holding me back from fully doing that, because there's definitely new vehicles pulling up for me to get into, is the evidence from the old vehicles. And I wonder, was all that evidence, all those studies that I read, were they just a manifestation of some vibration that I had going on at the time, and are not necessarily true to what I'll experience next?
They were evidence of what you had going on, and in many cases were your path of least resistance to get you to a further place. But they are not a belief that will serve you for all of the days of your life, because you are an evolving being.
Let myself off the hook of the pressures I used to put on myself based on those old manifested...
A nice thing to say is, it was there when I needed it. It was the clarity that I found that served me really well. But now I stand in a clearer place. This is the way it goes. We'll be very brief. You know what you don't want, so you launch a rocket about what you do want. There's always a gap. So you focus upon what you do want, and you close that gap, and now you've only got one vibration, and now your point of attraction is such that you attract it, and now you've attracted or accomplished or created what you set out to accomplish. But you also now have a whole new vantage point with a whole new set of contrasting experiences from which to create. So now a whole new set of contrasting experiences causes you to launch another rocket of desire. And so it's always that way, and at no point does it serve you to go back to those beginning things.
That's what I thought. That's nice to hear. Cool.
And let's take this a little step further. So you got that really well. You felt that click into place. Can you imagine what your inner being knows about you that you're not ready to believe? Can you imagine what your inner being knows about your potential for metabolism, your potential for stability, your potential for cellular reproduction. Can you imagine what your inner being knows that you're not ready to believe because the current evidence doesn't support this belief, but the vibrational evidence does? Yeah. That's why things move forward rather slowly with humans. You want to use what has already manifested as your evidence for what will manifest. That'll only get you more of what's already manifested. But there is all kinds of new vibrational evidence that will take you to whole new manifestations, like people getting along with each other, and like the dominant vibration being one of harmony, and like groups of people coming together with all of their knowledge that they've gathered from all their time and working together in cooperation to make things better, not worse. There are all kinds of possibilities that now reality doesn't support.
You're probably going to have fun with this question, but it's the other one that was on my mind for today. Are other people real?
They are, but the reality that you acknowledge in them is your perception of their realness. Let's find the right word. You contour them through your unique perception of them. So they are never, by anybody else's vantage point, including their own, as you perceive them to be. So if you're in concert with Source and you're seeing them through the eyes of Source, your perspective of them is so much realer that they may rise to your image rather than to the diminished image that they got from the teacher that didn't like them.
So if other people are real,
they are as real as you perceive them to be. They are exactly as you perceive them to be. Isn't it astonishing sometimes when you travel the world and you get to see something in another part of the world up close through your eyes, and you find out it's not the way the person who told you about it made it out to be? Or what you read in the book doesn't seem to explain it? Reality is in the eye of the beholder. And when you really get real with who you are and you behold through the vantage point of your all that isness, this world's going to look real good to you.
one of the few things that holds me back these days from my connection, and it doesn't come up as strong as it used to, but it's still present sometimes, is you've used the phrase being involved in the chain of pain before, and reconciling that at times is a little tricky for me, because as I come into more awareness and more consciousness, I realize more understanding and more love and more awareness for the people around me, but that also creates awareness of the ways that I've been neglectful or abusive or overridden their presence or all these things, and it can be hard to let oneself off the hook for being involved in the chain of pain.
Here's a way that you could. A chain of pain, we're going to give it a different definition. We're going to give it a definition. Chain of pain is the chain of observation. It's observing something, and then because I'm observing it, I am adding to it by the fuel that I'm throwing onto it. And I'm also activating the vibration within me so that now I'm part of it. So I saw it, I supported it, I became it. That's what we mean by the perpetuation of the chain of pain. There's also the chain of enlightenment. There's the chain of soothing. Whatever you give your attention to, the chain is the adding to the momentum of something. That's all I meant by that.
So when I'm paying attention to the pain that I caused somebody or something, I'm perpetuating that, and I could be paying attention to some other aspect that would serve all of us more.
Yeah, you're holding yourself in a place in time. Certainly, everything you say is exactly right. Anytime that you feel pain, you could be focused in a way that could be serving better. Because remember what your pain always means. Your inner being is not joining you, so your inner being must be somewhere else. And it would be helpful to you to acknowledge, I wonder where my inner being is. Since they're not here in this thought and in this pain, then they must be on the other end of that stick. So I'm beating up on myself for pain I caused someone, and I don't have the capacity to consider what part the other person played or what we had going. In other words, I've just decided to beat up on myself by acknowledging that I caused pain, and now I'm causing pain right now by thinking about the pain I caused. And the only thing that is certain, the only thing I can be sure of, is that my inner being is not joining me right here and now in this thought. And because my inner being is not joining me right here and now in this thought, then I am causing vibrational resistance and some form of separation between me and my inner being. And I'm never going to sort anything out without the resources of my inner being. So if I've learned enough, and you have, to think that through that far, and you have, so that you're actually asking the question, well, if my inner being is not here with me in this deliberate diminishing of myself, then where is my inner being? My inner being is wanting to soothe me and support the value that is I. Oh, inner being, what are you thinking about this? Your inner being is thinking you're wonderful, and your inner being is thinking that you're an expanding being, and your inner being is thinking that that served you well, and then your inner being is thinking that your guidance system is working, and your inner being is thinking that you are a magnificent being and that life is supposed to work out well for you, and your inner being is thinking you contribute a lot in that situation. Your inner being is thinking you're not looking at this through the eyes of source, or you'd be feeling the value that everybody was getting from it. Your inner being is thinking you were experiencing a contrasting experience which caused you to launch a rocket of desire which has served the entire universe well, but you're choosing not to take the value from it. You're choosing to focus upon diminishment for some sick reason.